Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We're going to have a great show for you today, and we have a very special guest, State Representative Jon Rosenthal with you today. We're going to have a great, un grandioso show for you today. Anyhow, have you been watching they started out with it on all the channels, and I'm going to tell you something, folks. I don't know, but you can't help, including with the new videos, you can't help but ask yourself, how can someone be so evil wearing a uniform? I looked at that and I took yet another perspective. You have to be evil. Even as somebody is telling you, it's more than I can't breathe, right? It's more than that. It's that even after they said the guy had no pulse, that officer kept his knees on his neck. It was like, for those who believe in things like the devil, it was like he was possessed. It was like he wanted to kill. It played a number on my mind to see that somebody could have that hate in their body. When I took a look at it, it's like, I can't believe this is happening. People are taping, people with cameras. It didn't matter. In America, we know that some bodies don't matter. In America, we know that it'll blow over. It's just a black body. I mean, I looked at it again today as they were playing it, and MSNBC and CNN, they all played the whole thing. And I sat there and I watched it. And I watched the people begging the officer. He's not breathing. He's dying. Let me check his pulse. Had a wonderful woman out there saying, I am a paramedic. Let me go ahead and check this guy or whatever. Let me check him. But no. He murdered him. This was murder. This was utterly, you cannot put it any other way. This was murder in front of all of us. And if this guy, for some reason, there's a hung jury, it's not going to be all people acquitting him. If some reason there's a hung jury, look, I always hope for peace. But if you cannot convict a murderer with a license to murder, please tell me, what do people do? Answer me. What do people do? I don't know. What do people do? Please tell me. This happened last May, but when you take a look at it today and you watch it over and over again, it played a number on me, folks. It played a number on me. Not only the death of George Floyd. It's more than the death of George Floyd. But it's also that another human being could do this in front of cameras. Does that tell you something about the brashness of the police? Does that tell you something about what they believe as far as who is in control, who runs things around here. That they don't care that they're on camera. They don't care that people are filming. I don't care. And Chauvin, his eyes, like, you can't do a damn thing. If you come here, we'll maze you. And all 10, 15, 20 people out there watching. And these thugs calling themselves cops. These thugs are killing a man. And I mean, this is one that we see on camera, right? With several different vantage points. But this is not new. This is something that happens over and over and over again. For those people that you hear say defund the police and oh, scary thing, bad move. Oh, look. Oh, not all of them are bad. There are some good ones. All of them are bad if they let the good ones go by, because it's the good ones that are in the division. They know who the bad ones are, and the fact that they allow the bad ones to continue, they are bad by inference. I stay to hell away from cops. I am a law-abiding citizen. I'm a professional. I have all these different pieces of paper. And when I see a cop, my heart goes into my throat and I turn the other direction. I stay the hell away from police officers. Period. I don't care who they are. I don't care what race they are. I stay the hell away from police officers. Yes, sometimes you need them, right? But you know what? If somebody like me needs them, I first try to get away from the situation. Because even if I am the one who needs them, many times I am the one who would be hurt because the other person would get the benefit of the doubt. I couldn't believe watching it over and over again. It just brings it all back up. Anyhow, let's get to the show, folks. I mean, this is your show, so I just needed to get that off of my chest. This is your show. Let's get busy. What is the show about today? The show today is about State Representative Jon Rosenthal on Education Bill and Jim Crow 2.0, Republican voter suppression. So let's go ahead and get started with the videos. The first video that I want to show you is the level of, listen to Senator Lindsey Graham. This is just pathetic. Check this out. Lindsey Graham used to be one of Donald Trump's harshest critics on all the policies that Donald Trump was all about. Now Lindsey Graham is not only one of his best supporters, one of his sycophants, one of his enablers or past enablers, but he's also adopted the unadulterated, inhumane evil that Donald Trump represents. I want you to listen to this and then let's take it on the other side.
Is your messaging in saying that these children are and will be allowed to stay in this country and work their way through this process, encouraging families like Joselle's to come?
The idea that I'm going to say, which I would never do, that if an unaccompanied child ends up at the border, we're just going to let them starve to death and stay on the other side. No previous administration did that either, except Trump. I'm not going to do it.
Visiting the border this week, a group of Republican senators told our Rachel Scott the children should be sent back home.
We just met a mother.
Yes.
With her 5-year-old.
Yeah.
She was in tears.
Yeah.
Crossing the border. What do? Do you send that mother and her 5-year-old child back across the border?
Yes,
They should go back across the border after making this trek here, looking for a better life, looking for asylum.
There's a legal way to get here and there's an illegal way to get here.
Maybe you should have told the pilgrims that there was a legal way to get to America. There's a legal way to batter the natives. There was a legal way to steal the land. One of the things that this guy should remember is there are reasons why these people are coming over here. Nobody comes over here because, oh my God, I want to send my 10-year-old kid walking for several hundred miles to get to the United States because of Biden. That's not what they do. These people are in dire straits. When the original settlers of America came, they came to conquer, they came to steal, they came to plunder. These people are coming for a job. These people are coming, escaping for their lives. Where is the humanity? What kind of humanity do you represent? The reality, folks, is this. Thank God, thank the Supreme Being, that more Americans are good people than folks like Lindsey Graham and his Trump cabal. I got so riled up when I got started, I didn't salute my people. Julie Van Osdale, welcome aboard. Michael Rudden, welcome aboard. Let's see, AVQ, Bridge MCP, welcome aboard. Paul Fleming, welcome aboard. I took the Pfizer and will take my second shot April 15th. Great for you, brother Fleming. Let's see who else is here. Moderna gets her second shot, 424 for Bridge MCP. Let's see who else is here. Wendy Green, welcome aboard, my dear friend. Sources Caudas, welcome aboard. Let's see who else is here. Nanette Bird Smith, welcome aboard. Para ver quién más está aquí. Deborah John, welcome aboard. Egberto, this trial is fixed. He's going to get off. They gave the family a settlement before trial. We'll see. I suggest they don't get him off. Bruce Fallard, welcome aboard. Who else is here? Brian Sams, welcome aboard, sir. Okay, let's see. And Brian Sam is one of our new supporters as well. Thank you for being a PDR Posse supporter, Mr. Brian Sams. Appreciate that very much. Let me read something from Michael Rudden real fast. Has COVID-19 fatigue caused a third wave in Europe? There's a huge spike in cases, so if the 2-week delay holds, we'll sadly see an even higher predictable spike in deaths there next week. CNBC has a follow-up with charts across multiple European nations with 20,000 people dying every week. Most COVID deaths could have been mitigated after the first 100 days. I taped that. I'm not playing it today, but Burke said that. It's a shame. In other words, we have an excess of 450,000 dead people had we just done things right. I'm not going to read the rest of that one. Rudden Fauci said he and Burks had bad cop, good cop roles on Trump coronavirus force. All the material, all those memes about toddler Trump and his handlers were right all along. Top infectious disease expert Anthony Fauci said in an interview that aired on Sunday that he and former White House coronavirus coordinator Deborah Birx took on the bad cop and good cop rules. I won't read the rest, but I get the point. Yeah, I watched that. The Moderna, this is important here. The Moderna and Pfizer vaccine are very effective in real-world conditions, preventing infections, the CDC report. And I won't read the rest, but let me just tell you guys, it's 90% effective in the real-world tests that they've done, or the real-world observation that they've done. So the Moderna vaccine and the Pfizer vaccine, they are real. So far, they work. The one thing we don't know for sure is the duration of your immunity. So we have to figure that out. The good thing about it is that there are people that are way ahead of us who've taken it 3-6 months ahead of us. So if they monitor those people 6 months ahead, we'll be able to know if, the mass of the population that's getting vaccine now needs some sort of a booster. I know Moderna, I think it said that they're already working on a booster that covers more variants, etc. So we'll see how that works out. I got to get going real quickly here because we have an interview that I got to play. But let's go ahead and play this one here. This is important. Rick Tyler, Republican strategist, he had a prescient statement. Imagine when you hear a Republican just going all out to make a statement like this, you know that the Republican Party is really who we've always known it is. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Rick Tyler, Ruth Marcus at the Washington Post, she wrote something that caught our team's attention, and she says the GOP has now embarked on a, quote, national effort to suppress the vote at all costs and a desperate effort to get back the power they lost. What are the unintended consequences here for Republicans? I think everyone knows what Georgia Republicans are trying to do and why Brian Kemp signed it into law. But might this come back to bite them?
I think it already has. Look, you now have a national news story where 2 white police officers have arrested a black woman who was a state representative, for wanting to attend a bill signing. She, from all accounts, she didn't appear to want to be disruptive, but she wanted to make a point. Her name, by the way, is Park Cannon. In December 1st, 1955, we had Rosa Parks. It's known that 65 years later, we would have needed a park cannon. It's really quite unbelievable. And from all I can discern from the GOP, which is my former party, is that their only coherent message that's discernible is to keep brown and black people from voting. They do not have, as was just said, an attractive governing philosophy that they can sell that would attract people to vote for them. And overall, they'll become a regional and not a national party. And it's just a matter of time. Georgia's changing. The demographics are changing. The math is against them. This is a last-ditch effort, and it's really the wrong way to go. We were warned about this over a decade ago, and this is exactly the wrong way that the Republican Party would need to be going in to become a majoritarian national party.
Now, he gave them the double whammy. Number one, they are making sure that brown and black voters don't vote. And the other concept is that they really do not have a governing philosophy. In other words, what he's saying is the Republican Party has nothing to offer most other than strife between people to ensure that if they are fighting against each other, there is a group that will think that we better vote Republican, and what we do is we stop the other group from voting altogether. But ultimately, everybody loses. Folks, understand what the Republican Party is now. And until it is reformed, it has no business governing. So if you are one of the people that the Republican Party is targeting as someone that will vote for us, so we'll make sure that we make it easier for you to vote as we make those brown people, those black people, and those poor white people stay away, remember to vote your interest, because your interest definitely isn't that which the Republican Party represents. Absolutely not. Anyhow, folks, welcome. Let's see, some new people came in. Mark Smith from London. And of course we have, I think I saw Stephanie Miller. Welcome aboard, Stephanie Miller. Who else do I have to salute? Deborah John, welcome aboard. Para ver quién más está aquí. Deb, Denny, Egberto, they need to talk about real reason, which is to take control of the vote away from the voting committee. Deb, Denny, and there's another person that sent me an email with that regards. I think it was Brian. And you are so correct. That is what's missing. Everybody talks about the water. They're not allowing you to give water, or they're shortening times. The magic is they have the legal power to overturn the election. That is what they're not talking about. Thank you, Deb, Denny, and Brian. Brian Sands, I think it is. Egberto Willis, they need to talk about the real reason, which is to take control of vote away from the voting committee. Thank you so kindly. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. Matthew 25:35. Offer not valid in Bridge. That was cold, Bridge MCP. Okay, let's do the Chuck Todd video real quick, and then I will go to the next. By now, all Americans know that voter suppression is in full vogue. The first state that has really comprehensively attacked minority voters, low-income voters, voters that have problems getting to the polls, Georgia. They just passed a law, and we had Senator Warnock from Georgia speak about it. Now, it's funny because as soon as Democrats wins Georgia, but not control of the local houses, they decide to make it very difficult for Democrats to vote, for people who likely would vote Democrats to vote. But anyhow, that's beside the point. Today, Pat Toomey appeared on Chuck Todd, and Chuck Todd asks him to defend the bill. I want you to listen to this, and then let's on the other side.
One last question. I want to ask you about the voting rights issue, but I want to play a statement from your colleague on the Democratic side of the aisle, Raphael Warnock. Here's what he had to say about voting rights.
We wouldn't have to have this debate about the filibuster, at least on this issue, if the folks on the other side would do the right thing and stand for voting rights.
I want to separate out H.R. 1 from the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. Do you believe there are 10 Republicans to do an updated version of the Voting Rights Act, something that used to be fairly easy to get done in a bipartisan way. I know the issues with H.R. 1, and I'm trying to separate the two. Where are you on this?
I haven't drilled down on this distinction that you're making. The Democrats have been driving this message on H.R. 1, and I think we ought to be asking our Democratic colleagues, why are they so insistent that we not have any mechanism to verify that a person seeking to vote is, in fact, the person that they say they are? Why are they so insistent that people ought to be able to go ballot harvesting, maybe go through a nursing home and get a couple of hundred ballots that just happen to be whatever they are? I mean, there is a completely false narrative about so-called voter suppression. You look at the Georgia law. There's no voter suppression. Sunday voting is still allowed. There's an expansion of in-person voting. There's no requirement that you have a reason for a mail-in ballot. All you need is some verification of ID, and so does every Department of Transportation in America in order to drive. So does every airline if you're going to get on a plane. So this has been a false narrative entirely, Chuck, and I'm afraid it's all about trying to get rid of the filibuster. We're not going to be cowed by being called racist over policy that has nothing to do with race.
I understand your point of view there. I'm just curious, though, do you think it's a good look for the party that after a presidential loss, after the former candidate basically creates a false narrative and lies about why it happened, that these laws are getting changed under a false pretense? That's not a good look for the Republican Party, is it not?
I was very critical of President Trump along the way after the election, as I think you know, but we should be honest about this. We made very dramatic, sweeping changes to accommodate the circumstances of a global pandemic that had huge implications. And some of those sweeping changes include provisions that are really actually tough to verify the accuracy of the vote, and we have an awful lot of Americans who are worried about the integrity of our system. So some common sense measures like requiring an ID to get an absentee ballot or to vote, that just makes a lot of sense.
Senator Pat Toomey, Republican from Pennsylvania. Always appreciate you coming on and sharing your perspective with us. Thank you, sir.
First of all, for those who believe that Republicans that remain in the Republican Party, somehow there's some of them like Toomey that are moderate and somehow don't follow the same methodology that the right wing follow, which is to suppress votes, to not give people the support they need, to not support policies for people. This is a classic example. He supports what was done in Georgia. Now he rolled Chuck Todd. And how did he do that? What he said sounds plausible, but it's simply not true. It's wrong. The reality is all the mail-in votes and all these laws were passed by a Republican legislature, a Republican state senate, and signed by a Republican governor. They supported it. The problem is that when Stacey Abrams and her cabal brought out all the people to vote, Republicans lost, so now they want to change the rules. But it is deeper than that, because what Chuck Todd allowed him to do is to describe the new law in a form that says, is it so bad to ask somebody to prove who they are? Is it so bad for you to have more people vote in person as opposed to by mail? That's the narrative they want to put out there. What they don't want to tell is numero uno, people don't vote illegally in general. And why don't they do that? Why do that for minimal results? And it's a heavy crime. And it's been proven already. The people that have been found trying to vote illegally this entire cycle has been Republicans that were Trump sycophants. But let's go beyond that. What Chuck Todd missed is, since he said we're just trying to make people more feel better about the vote, that the vote is honest, it's secure. Remember, the only people that are telling you that the vote wasn't secure was Donald Trump and his cabal. But he forgot to tell you, how does not giving a mother with a kid, a grandmother in a line that you created, a line that you made along by not having enough equipment in the lines, how are you making that safer? By not allowing people to give water. And if somebody gives you water in a line, it is a crime, punishable. How is it not voter suppression if what you're doing is shortening the time that people who work have to vote? You got to go to work. How are you going to get to vote if your polls are closing early? You can't do that. But more ominous is this. If the legislature feels that they don't want to accept a particular county's votes as legitimate, they can overturn it. That is the most blatant thing not being spoken about right here. That this gives power to the Georgia legislature, irrespective of what the people vote, to say we are not accepting your results. This is what we are going to do. So Chuck Todd didn't ask him about those 3 items. Those 3 items, among many others, are bad enough. But he should have asked about those 3 items. What about every location must have the same amount of voter machines? What that means, there will be no lines in rural areas, but there will be lines in urban areas. I mean, there's so much to this bill that just proves how it is nothing more than voter suppression. And Chuck Todd got rolled, and that hurts us all. Because America then gets the impression that Democrats are simply going crazy because they changed the laws, as opposed to there are legitimate reasons that prove this is voter suppression. And Chuck Todd allowed Toomey to come onto his program, create propaganda, and create a false premise as far as what that Georgia new law represents. Absolutely. So, hey, folks, we have a new member. My brother actually is a good friend of mine from La Familia de Panama. Al Rose, welcome aboard the PDR posse. And you should be getting a welcome, usually from Bridge MCP. Bridge MCP always tells our new people, hey, welcome aboard. Thank you so kindly. Folks, if you want to join the PDR posse, please just go ahead and click that join button on YouTube. Click that join button on YouTube. If you don't see a join button, or if you're not on YouTube, if you're on Facebook or anywhere else, please go ahead and click politicsdoneright.com/YouTube, politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. And by the way, if you want to get one of our cups that shows you are a member of the PDR posse, you can order them at the link right there. And it was designed by the one and only Bridge MCP as well. Bridge MCP designed, and several people have already sent in their videos and their things. You see Roberto Lewis there. You see Bridge MCP there with her cup. You're going to see Linda E. And then you're going to see, I think, is Norman Reynolds showing off the cup that we... Look, I play this stuff, all this cup stuff, but what you guys are doing, I love you for it. By getting our merchandise, you're supporting us, right? You're making sure that I can continue doing this. I thank you so kindly. So go ahead and, if you can, click on that join button, become a part of the PDR posse, get a cup, do whatever. Whatever you do, you actually help me continue doing this. By the way, a little bit of news. We're going to go about 2 or 3 minutes late today, but I need to tell you about my daughter. My daughter had to postpone graduating for 6 months because of her left side, the stroke stuff on her left side, have her her mobility is not very well. So she just called me and told me that she just had her PT and she's making some solid improvements on her left side, which is the side that the radiation from the stroke thing affected. The other thing that I needed to put up on my daughter is that she did the meme. If you see that meme today, that meme that you see there was done by my daughter for the show. So she's going to be helping me out a bit while she is taking a break to get the PT done and all of that. So I am so happy that she said, Daddy, I can't put a lot of time in it right now, but I will go ahead and help you a little bit while I take this little break from school before I graduate. So I want to thank my sweet, beautiful, lovely daughter for helping out Dad on this one. So anyway, so Al Rose joined, and guess who just joined? AVQ, my brother, just joined the posse as well. I love you folks, man. You guys are going to really make sure that we get this baby done. Let me put our grand old AVQ up there on the screen as well. You know, I'm going to be 5 minutes late today because I can't have my folks here and not recognize them immediately. That's just how we roll here. That's how we roll. There you go. AVQ, welcome to the PDR posse. So, folks, hey, did you get your salute from Bridge MCP yet? Bridge, did you salute AVQ from just becoming a member? All you wonderful people. Thank you so kindly. Anyhow, let me see what else I need to say before I go to the video, because I got to get to the. If you want, folks, go ahead and get the book on the screen. It's worth it. Here is the link to get It's Worth It. This is how you get it at para ver. That is how you get it at Amazon. And if you want to get rid of the middle person, just go ahead and go directly to our store, politicsdoneright.com/store, politicsdoneright.com/store. Likewise, if you go ahead and if you want to support us in a different fashion, you can also support us via our Patreon, Patreon, P as in person, Atreon, politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. And of course, we accept PayPal, politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. Okay, we got to get busy with this wonderful interview that I did with State Representative Jon Rosenthal. Jon is a good friend of mine. Let's get busy and let's get with it. Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. As you guys know, there's a whole lot of stuff happening throughout state legislatures in this country. Texas is no different. And today I am honored to be with the one and only Representative Jon Rosenthal from District 135 in the Houston area, but this covers entire Texas. Representative Jon, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Well,
it's been too long since we've sat together.
Yeah, but you know what? There's so much that has happened since this is your second term that you've been reelected, which gives you a certain degree of permanence, and people know you. People know your name. I think you won something special in your first year at the Capitol. Is that correct? Tell us a little bit about that.
That's right. In my first term, I was awarded the Freshman of the Year. I was named Freshman of the Year by the Legislative Study Group, which is actually the second largest caucus in the Texas House, second only to the Republican House caucus. And so that's a great honor for me to be named. Legislative Study Group is a nonpartisan policy analysis group, and I was given that honor because my policy and my projection, my focus is on the people of Texas. So I don't let politics or special interests get in the way of serving the people.
Well, you know, that is one of the great things of actually having engineers in legislatures, because engineers believe in engineering things, making sure things work. I'm kind of partial to that. You're a mechanical engineer. I'm a mechanical engineer. So, I mean, I'm really partial to those kinds of things. But anyhow, look, there's a whole lot of stuff happening around the country. You saw what happened in Georgia, where they passed that bill that, I mean, even if you're in a long line for 11 hours, if somebody gives you a bottle of water, you are committing a crime. In the Texas Legislature, what's going on? Tell us a little bit about the bills that you want submitted. Tell us a little bit about the bills that you want to get the hell out of there. And tell us a little bit about what you need us as the community to do, meaning the entire Texas community to do, to make sure bad bills don't get through.
So how much time do we have?
You start telling me, and we'll go from there.
Okay, so we have a number of really hot topics in the legislature. So I'll start with sort of a global view. And what's going on right now is there were already major initiatives to address recovery from the pandemic, major initiatives around voter suppression or voter security, depending on what your perspective on that is. You know, we've got George Floyd Act and major amendment to the Sandra Bland Act. So a lot of civil rights, criminal justice reform issues. And then to pile on top of all of this, we just had a major freeze at the beginning of our session. And there's a huge push. The governor made it an emergency item to address some of the causing factors of this freeze. Hopefully we will do that substantively, but those are the large, those are the big ticket items that I see. And there's a number of other things too. I hope I'm not leaving off something terribly important, but I came in, you know, with my specific agenda too. I wanted in a lean budget year. So one of the challenges we're facing is that we're not going to have as much money to spend this time as we did last time, because the revenues are reduced as a result of the COVID pandemic, less oil and gas sales. So we get less oil and gas severance taxes, less in-person sales. So there's less sales tax. I guess property tax probably stays the same, but the number of people that default on their homes and stuff reduces that probably some. So we got a shortfall in revenue, and that makes life a little tougher because we just fought in my first session, in the 86th legislative session, which was the last one. We fought so hard to increase spending in public education, and we had a massive increase in spending for public education, like $12 billion. And so I came in with a strong focus to try to maintain that spending, and even if possible, try to find a way to increase spending in our public schools. And it may be possible, because of federal money coming in, that is going to alleviate some of these budget concerns, but probably not all.
And that is from the $1.9 trillion America Rescue Plan.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. So I personally, we could get into all sorts of stuff. I mean, we could probably talk all day just about that, just about trying to make sure that federal money coming into the state that's earmarked to benefit public schools. Before
you go into the specific of those particular bills that you're talking about,
yeah,
I want to ask something that has been my pet peeve for over a decade now, and that is the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act. I mean, it was denied Texans, even though for the first 3 years it cost 0 and thereafter 10%. And it also helps the economy. Have you guys decided what you're going to do about that yet? Or are Democrats going to go in there and make a stink about some of the reasons why it is actually hurting us, not only health-wise, but economically?
Yes. And there are a number of bills that Democrats have brought to push, the executive to accept the expansion. We're also going to have an extended series of conversations on budget night to accept the Medicaid expansion, just like we did in the last session. Democrats have pushed to accept this expansion since it was available. And now we're one of something like only 12 states to not have accepted it.
Exactly. Even most red states now have it, yes.
Because they figured out they're leaving money on the table, and it's our money.
Yes, it's
We've
amazing.
It's $10 billion, is it $10 billion a biennium, I think. So
yes.
It's $5 billion a year. And so over the course of the last 10 years, we've left $50 billion on the table. And
Unrecoverable.
That's right. And
John, I want to ask you.
We're hoping that puts pressure.
Sorry to interrupt you, Representative.
No, it's fine.
But I want to ask you this because my contention is for a group that claims to be fiscally responsible, why haven't we more effectively made the case that we've left $50 billion that could have gone to educate our kids, $50 billion that could have otherwise gone to do so many other things on the table? How can you elect people that do that?
It's a good question. I mean, that should be a fundamental talking point for us. And I think it has been. It was part of my platform to get elected, and also my platform. Yes, and my platform to get reelected. I mean, this was a much tougher election. Freshmen are seen as a freshman flipping a seat from one party to the other is seen as most vulnerable after that first term.
Right.
And so spending in my race was in the millions of dollars. I mean, it was a very tight race. So I'm grateful to the people of the district for returning me to the House. But that was my message, and I think that's part of how Democrats not just succeed. I mean, it's good to succeed, and certainly there's an amount of political ambition around this. But the point has got to be what's good for the people, what's good for the state, and we're beyond the tipping point. Texas is simply the worst in the country when it comes to health care for our citizens. We are number 50 out of 50 on a number of measurements that are vital, including, maternal mortality, number of uninsured, percentage of uninsured, number of uninsured children, percentage of uninsured children in this state, higher than any other state in the union. And folks who are conservatives that that maybe hold a different view, I hope that they will come around to understand that the fact that folks are uninsured raises the cost to insure all of us. It raises the cost for healthcare for everybody across the table. So except money, the Medicaid expansion will help alleviate some of those costs, especially the indigent care costs. You show up in an emergency room, you don't have insurance, they take care of you anyway, and the hospital pads all their other charges on everybody else to cover what they're going to have to cover in that. So when you bring that down, it lowers the cost for all of us. And when you lower the cost, you lower the insurance rate. So
what's the possibility of it being cleared this time around in this session? Because if we don't get it cleared in 2021, we don't get a shot at it until 2023.
That's correct. So, well, actually, that's technically it's not correct. The governor could do it anytime he wanted to.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Right.
But this is we only have a chance once every 2 years to push the governor to do that in an official way like this. And there are a number of conservatives who are on board with it. So last time they voted in unity against our amendments to expand it, to accept the expansion, to accept it in narrowly defined categories like to allow women to stay on it after childbirth for a year, things like that. But now there's a number of conservatives who are joining us in the fiscal argument. So while it's just plain the right thing to do, there's a fiscal argument to be made that you're making very effectively. And
it would seem like rural senators and rural representatives would really want it given to what's happening in those rural hospitals right now.
Well, what's happening in rural hospitals is they're closing at an alarming rate. And so folks who live in rural Texas, their distance to care is increasing in a lot of areas, because when your rural hospital closes, instead of a 20-minute drive you had now, maybe it's a 40-minute drive or a 50-minute drive just to get to a hospital. So I'm very hopeful that all of that, how it's been going, puts pressure on conservatives to join with us and make it happen.
I like the way you operate in the House. I find that you follow some of the principles that many of us have been talking about, and that is working with everybody, finding a way to absolutely work with everybody. And I find that in a state representative or in any politician, it proves that you care more about the people than some sort of ideology that you represent.
I do, and thank you so much for recognizing that. I think my colleagues in the House also see that. So I will say I'd like to, in the Texas government, we are less adversarial across the aisle than what we see in Washington. So we do consider ourselves colleagues, but just the same, there are plenty of people who are more left of center that don't want to work with the people who are more right of center. And to me, the truth of the matter is there are some wedge issues, out at the edges. There are some wedge issues that divide us that probably we'll never agree on. But the vast majority of stuff that goes through the House gets large bipartisan support. And something like 86% of the bills in the last session had more than 100 votes out of 150 in the House. There's only 80 something Republicans, so you've got good support with more than 100 votes. That's enough to get a constitutional amendment, stuff like that. And so I like to think we have more in common than what separates us.
Well, again, if we elect more people like you, Jon, we'll be in great shape. Now, tell me a little bit about. Give me a walk down on the bills that you want to see in effect, and give me a walk down of the bills that you want to see canned.
I'm going to start with the voter suppression laws. So we've got House Bill 6 and Senate Bill 7, I believe they are, and they are moving through committees right now. These, we need everyone to show up in support of these. So I believe that you can register remotely to say you are for or against a bill. We call that dropping a card. So you can register remotely by going to house.texas.gov. And I think on the committees tab, you can find, for us, it'll be the elections committee, of course, and you can drop a card.
So we don't want SB 7, right?
SB 7 has already passed out of committee and it's going to go to the Senate House floor. We don't want SB 7 and we don't want HB 6. They're basically the same bill.
Right.
The SB is the Senate bill and the HB is the
House bill. Yeah.
They have companions so they can work together. And they do that to try to get across the finish line earlier in the session. And Republicans have the votes to advance both of these. It's pretty egregious. If you follow my Twitter and Facebook feeds, I comment about this quite a bit. But we want folks to register against these bills. So do what we call drop a card, register against the bill. Just make sure your voice is heard in some way. If you can come to Austin to testify against, that is also encouraged. The more voices they hear, the better. And when we pack a committee hearing, and they will have limited registration on the day of, probably. You just go to the Capitol, they got kiosks, you sign up to testify. When we sit in these committees and a bill comes up and we see, oh my goodness, there's 300 people here to testify on, for, or against, it really has an effect on legislators. I think the process is designed for you, the public, for people in the public to interface, to engage with their elected representatives.
Now, what's the major hurdle or the major bad thing in that HB 6 SB 7?
There's a bunch, and I don't know them all, but it limits.
Just give me the two major ones.
It makes it harder for handicapped people to vote. You have to prove that you require an accommodation, so you need a doctor's note. It will limit early voting. It will require that every voting location has the same number of machines. So whether you're in a church in rural Texas or you're at NRG Stadium to serve downtown Houston, you have to have exactly the same number of machines.
Makes no sense, right?
Makes no
It hurts urban areas.
It hurts urban areas the worst. And there's other stuff. I mean,
we don't have the water bill in there though, nor do we have the you can't feed anybody in the line bill in there, right?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
We're not quite as egregious as Georgia, but it's.
But I heard that they were actually going against something that I practice here, which is going against the voter registrars.
Yeah, so I think they want to limit or remove the deputy voter registrars.
Right.
They want to severely curtail a government entity's ability to inform the public how to request a mail-in ballot. So our elections administrator or county clerk couldn't even put out informational materials about that. I mean, it's egregious.
Yeah, we need to give that more coverage. I'm glad that you put that all on your Twitter feed all of the time. So we'll keep abreast of that other bill that we don't want.
That's the big one for me. There are other ones moving through, but my ability to focus on how many of these, there's
so many.
There's so many. There's an anti-transgender bill that won't allow transgender athletes.
Oh, we have one also. I didn't quite know that one. I didn't see that in your list. Okay.
Yeah, it's not on. I mean, it's something I actively fight against. I mean, I'm an ally, of course, the LGBTQIA community, and I'm bringing legislation that's for anti-discrimination legislation. I have a gender marker bill for trans folks to be able to change the gender marker on their driver's license, stuff like that. But that's also egregious, and I view it as a distraction on some of these other fronts. They're going to want to water down the George Floyd Act, which is being heard right now. Sanfronia Thompson brought House Bill 88, and that's the George Floyd Act. There's also a continuation of Sandra Bland Act, and I think it's Garnet Coleman's bill, but I'm not sure. I'm signed on to a bunch of these, and there's a bunch of criminal justice reform stuff that I support. And then public education, I've got some personal pet things I want to talk about really quick.
Give it to me.
One is House Bill 699. We're calling it Riley's Rule. We had a young man who had been fighting a chronic illness coming to the office. He was like 15 when he booked an appointment to see me in my district office. And he had been held back a year in school because having too many absences. In our school district, we have a 90-20 rule, a 90-10 rule. If you don't attend 90% of the class meetings, you cannot pass the class, even if you do all the work. And so between the doctor appointments, specialty, appointments, therapy, things like that, he had missed more than 10% of the school meetings and was held back a year in school, even though he had completed the academic requirements. So this bill makes a state law that absences associated with chronic or terminal illness cannot be used to
Excellent.
keep and that passed unanimously through the House Education Committee. The young man, Riley, came and testified. I had members of the committee coming up to me afterwards and saying, you need to bring that young man to all your bill layouts. You go explain a bill.
We'll win it every time.
He will get all your stuff passed. He was so powerful. It was great. And then I also have one that's House Bill 626, and this expands an adult career education program. So this is the most successful adult career education program in the country. It's called Texas Innovative ACE for Adult Career Education Program. And it is geared toward helping people train up for careers that are in demand, better paying jobs. And so my legislation doubles the grant for the program. So I've got a budget request to double their money and then expand the program so that they can also serve nonprofits that help veterans with career education. So double the size of the program and allow it to serve veterans. And it's near and dear to me because it helps an adult career education program, helps people, where they are to qualify for better jobs. And it's an original idea. It wasn't brought up to me by someone else.
But you know what is also great about that, Representative? The great thing about that is that this is where we are in the American economy, where that is a necessity in this new economy. Because look at what has happened with the freeze or with the pandemic. There are a lot of jobs that are no longer going to be there because now people are going to be working from home. They're going to realize new efficiencies, and people are going to have to retrain themselves for other things.
Absolutely right. And then this also feeds into we have an affordable housing crisis. If you're making minimum wage, you just cannot afford a place to stay. I mean, I can talk all day about those numbers. I've studied that a lot. So we're trying to redefine what affordable housing is, to move that needle for the developments that get the government subsidy. They get a break on their taxes if they agree to use a portion of their development for affordable housing. And I want that. We've got initiatives in that area. Of course, if we would just raise the minimum wage, that moves the needle on affordable housing right there. Part of the problem is we got people working for sub-poverty wages.
What are the pet peeve?
Pet peeve for me?
No, I mean, is there another bill that you have, or?
Okay, so I have a slate of 7 bills. So you mentioned me being a mechanical engineer. I am the only mechanical engineer in the entire Texas State Legislature. I'm the only oil and gas technical professional. I've worked in that industry for more than 25 years. And while I've done upstream exploration development, subsea production systems is what I've worked on. I'm a systems guy. I'm a math person, like literally build mathematical models.
Well, hell, your dad was a math PhD at the University of Austin.
That's right. My daddy was an endowed position
at the university, at our university. Both of us went to
the University of Texas at Austin.
Yes.
So I fortunately or unfortunately, whether it's a blessing or a curse, I grew up in a house with a math professor. But what I'm getting at here is I'm actually an expert in an engineering field called flow assurance. And this is the science of moving oil and gas product through pipes when they get hot or cold. I know what happened during this freeze, and a portion of that has to do with the availability of product that we use for thermal generation. So I brought Step Up. I don't remember the bill numbers, but it's the Securing Texas Energy Power Utility Commission or something like that.
In other words, your bills are going to make sure that what happened in the big freeze does not happen again.
So I'm taking a very pragmatic approach to this, and I'm not listening to partisans, and I'm not listening to industry finger pointers, because what they did was they pointed fingers at each other.
Right.
Electrical generation folks said, if we had had the natural gas, we would never shut down. And the natural gas people said, if you hadn't turned off electricity, we could have run our compressors and fed you the gas, and we need compressors to run gas through pipes. And I'm saying, just like when you have kids who are fighting with each other, I don't care which one of you started it. The problem is you depend on each other. And if either one goes down, our whole grid goes down. And I do not want to freeze my butt off in my house again. So I've brought these bills. There's a number of high priority bills that are being run by leadership folks that are high up in seniority in the House. And so by bringing my legislation, it doesn't mean that my particular bills will pass, but I'll be working with the authors of some of these other bills to kind of get stuff in there to make sure it's not just window dressing, to make sure it's not just lip service, or to be able to say we did something without actually causing the change. If we don't change something, that will happen again. And that's just all there is to it, right? We got to change something.
Let me tell you something. Like I said, engineers get things done. And you've been getting a hell of a lot done. And we got to close here. But before we close, I always ask, what would you have liked me to ask you that I didn't?
So the question I used to hate that now I love to answer is, why did you get into politics? Why leave engineering? Why leave a good paying job to basically volunteer as a legislator? You know, we make $7,200 per year in this job. And the reason to do that is it's such an honor, it's such a privilege to be able to do things to help people in their daily lives. And your state government has the opportunity to make it worse or make it better. And I have gone to bring the voice of reason and work for the people of Texas, as long as I can afford to. You know, I lived in Illinois for a while, and farmers used to say, if I ever win the lottery, I'm going to buy a farm and work it till the money runs out. Well,
You're going to work.
I'm going to do this until either I go broke or find a way to pay the bills.
I love you, brother. Listen, Texas House Representative Jon Rosenthal of District 135, friend of mine, a hell of a politician, but first, someone who cares about his district, somebody who cares about his state, somebody who cares about his country. Thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right, Jon.
Thank you so much, my brother. I appreciate you.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above. We are running late. We're running late, and we got to get out of here, folks. Look, my name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. Love you all. You guys make my day. I live to do this, because we are going to make a difference. Thank you so kindly, folks. Thank you so kindly for your support. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out. Hey. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you.